Hey everyone, how's it going? It's Jim, and today we are out by the beautiful American River, and we are checking out the Rad Wagon from Rad Power Bikes. You probably heard about Rad Power Bikes. Rad Power Bikes. They've been pretty strong on the marketing front, so you've probably heard some stuff about Rad Power Bikes. And they started out, I'm pretty sure, and I'll put the date on the video. I'm pretty sure Rad Power Bikes started out with the Rad Wagon. I bought a Rad Wagon. I'll have to look at the exact date. I think it was 2013, 2014, maybe even. And I actually returned it because I had so many issues with there were some weird frame weld issues, and I wasn't comfortable, especially at that time my son was younger. I wasn't comfortable having him on the bike, trusting that at 20 miles an hour. But Rad Power Bikes was great on the customer service side. They took the bike back. They actually paid for my return shipping, and I have no complaints. So I bought this bike along with the Rad City because my friend was interested in one of these. So with the two bikes, you get a $200 discount. So that's what we used. Other than that, I paid full price, which is this one's $15.99, and I also bought the Ballard cargo bags. I do a little video of that I'll put up also about those bags. But I'm just going to go through some of the specs real quick and some of the features. And I'm hopefully spend most of the time riding and then discussing a little bit of the testing I already did on it. So let's dive in. So right away you can see Rad gives you a little tool kit. I'm not going to open it up. It's just some Allen wrenches, some basic wrenches, their owner's manual, and then also a manual on the display, which is nice. It's a nice touch. I'm glad you get all that stuff in there. Might as well just move right to the display right off the bat. You can see it's a nicely backlit black and white display, 5 bars of battery, gives you your speed, gives you your trip, your lifetime odometer, your trip distance, pedal assist level down there on the left, on the bottom left, and that is 1 to 5, and it kind of gives you like an indicator of what that mode is, like eco and no, and you can go to pedal assist level 0. Now I have on the kickstand, I have it off the ground, so I'll go ahead and put in walk mode and see how that walk flashes. So right now the rear wheel, it's not actually turning. I wonder why that is. So now we got turning, and the walk mode is quite gentle on this. I think it's pretty nice. It's not actually 4 miles an hour. And then you get a watt indicator on how much power is being put out right at the moment. And I think there's if you hold the up button and the center, the mode button, it turns on the headlight and you get an indicator of that. Headlight and tail light. Doesn't. Oh, it is on. See, there's a headlight, and one of the new things they did this year is it's got integrated headlight and tail light with a brake lever. See if I can reach this to show it. Functionality. There's also a flashing mode on this, which is, it flashes, and then here, I'm having a little trouble getting this. It goes solid when you hit the brake lever. I kind of wish that was the other way around. It flashed when you hit the brake lever. But back to the display, you turn the lights back and off and on, and then I'm going to show you really quickly the one other feature on the display. So the bottom end of the display, which is a little bit hard to see here, has a USB port. See, it's flashing USB, and you can see up there on my phone, it is actually putting out power to charge my phone. So it's nice that it actually works. Some bikes I've seen that they have that functionality, it's not always active. And I like how it gives you an indicator that's actually charging. I think that's about all the functionality here in the display. So now I'm just going to go through some of the features. So we got a 26 inch by 2.3 inch diameter wheel set, which is a little different than some. And you got 180 millimeter Tektro rotors running through Textro Aries mechanical disc brakes. These are single piston. One of the issues I had two issues with the bike on shipping. There are a couple minor scratches, but the tabs at the bottom of the battery are broken, and Rad Power Bikes was really prompt. They sent me a new battery, so that was good. And then also the front brake calipers were incredibly tight. I couldn't get the rotor in there, so I actually had to loosen them a lot. And it was the same way in the back. And on the back, you can see it's also the same 180 millimeter rotor. You can't, because the motor's in the way, you can't get to the backside brake adjustment. So I had to pull the caliper completely off, adjust the back, and then put it back on. So that could be about out of the scope of some people's mechanical aptitude. Like I was saying, you got a nicely reflective stripe. Hopefully you can catch a little bit of that here in the camera, being able to see some of the reflectivity. Plastic fenders, they don't seem to wobble too much. They don't have a reinforcement rib, but they seem to be quite good. It comes with a front wheel stabilizer / deflopilator, or whatever you want to call it. You got some nicely integrated wiring, and this is the universal mount for their front rack accessory package. And then you got the front integrated light, like I showed earlier. I don't know the luminums, the lumen output, but if I find that, I'll put that on the video. And I wish it was a little closer to the handlebars for ease of adjustment, but I mean, ideally, I think the light should be here. That would be much nicer. Oh, one other thing I forgot to mention on the display, it does have some micro tiltability, which I think is nice for being able to help with glare. And in the menu you can change backlight brightness, and I'll probably do a separate video down the road on the adjustments of the display. So we come up to the handlebars. We got a nicely shaped handlebar. It's about 24 inches from center to center on the handlebars. It actually feels a little narrow. Like, I wish it was a little wider. The sweep is pretty nice, but it could be, like when I'm riding it, you'll probably see I kind of ride like this because I want a little more room. So we got a 3-finger brake lever with a nice textured portion, motor cutoffs on both brakes, which is pretty standard on any bike these days. Integrated bell on the left, throttle on the right side, with a throttle. Get my shadow in there a little bit, with a off and on switch. One of my gripes with this off and on switch is I really wish there was an indicator on the display when it was off or on. I've had multiple times when taking off with this bike where I'd accidentally bump this and turn this off, because it's very easy. There's no, it happens, and I wouldn't be surprised that happened to other people. Very simple 7-speed thumb type shifter. The one thing you'll notice when I'm riding is you kind of have to reposition your hand to do the shifting. I know why they did that, to accommodate the twist throttle. I probably would have preferred a twist throttle on the left and a more normal thumb shifter setup where you didn't have to move your hand and reposition. I'm going to go down this side, then I'll reposition the bike for so you can see a little better on the other side. So we got 170 millimeter crank arms. A nice metal platform pedal. It does not have replaceable studs, but at least it is metal throughout, and it does seem to have nice grip. Again, you got the, didn't even say what the battery was. It's a 48 volt, 14 amp hour battery. That gives you 672 watt hours of power. It's huge. And, I'll go in the range a little bit, but it's big. You got the nice, now that it's a requirement, they got this, got a little bit of dirt on here, Class 2 sticker, so you know it's a Class 2 e-bike. Which, if you didn't know, a Class 2 e-bike gives you throttle up to 20 miles per hour and also pedal assist up to 20 miles per hour. I did up the speed limitation on this to the maximum, which is in kilometers per hour, so that's at 40 kilometers per hour. I wish I knew the conversion off the top of my head, but so this is going slightly above that, so technically it's really riding as a Class 3 right now. So as far as the battery goes, you got a nice key here. It's a little, I kind of wish these were colored, the positions. So this is, you have to push it in to get to the unlock position. And I will hopefully be able to show you that. So it's on the unlock. It is a little bit difficult to get off here. I kind of have to use two hands and kind of push at the back that way. The battery is, gotta look at some of my spec sheets here. 7.8 pounds. Charging port's up on the top so it doesn't interfere with the pedals. And when you have the battery on, you can see the indication there on the charge. There's this little push button. When it's off, you aren't able to do that. Sliding it back on is simple enough. It does slide into place nicely. It feels very firmly seated in there. You kind of have to push it down. And there's two positions locked on the bike. There's locked no power, and then the locked power is actually one position down. Oh, sorry, I said that wrong. That's locked no power, and that's the furthest one over is locked with power. I wish that was a little more clear. It's not that obvious to me, and I've made mistakes a few times as I've been riding this. You can see they got some water bottle bosses down here. These are not in a position where you can actually put a water bottle, but you could put various accessories on this. Potentially a small water bottle would fit in here, but my water bottle, I tried it and it ends up hitting the fender. You'll see they put a flat section here on the down tube to make this support sturdier, and I don't notice any wobble at all with the battery while riding. But the one thing I've noticed is when I pull off the battery, I tend to hit it right here. So I wouldn't be surprised if this doesn't end up kind of losing its paint after a while. All right. So Rad Power Bikes has exterior controllers. I don't really like the look of that. I kind of wish it was integrated into the cradle back here. I think that would make for a cleaner look. It's what they're doing. It's probably part of the reason they're pretty competitive price-wise. We got the nice double kickstand that's quite sturdy. I'll demonstrate that now by sitting on the bike, and I'm sitting on it with the kickstand, and even though I exceed the rear rack capacity, which is 120 pounds, it seems to be, I think it would support more than 120 pounds. The bike's cargo capacity is rated at 350 pounds total. All right, coming back to the rear, like I said, you got the rear disc brake, same setup. And I had some difficulty. When you get the bike, you have to put on the kickstand and put on the footboards. Other than that, it comes pretty much assembled. Rear fender, also plastic. There's no support ribs or anything, but again, I haven't really noticed much rubbing or anything like that. All right, now coming to the other side, you can see we got there's a 12 magnet cadence sensor in here. Very responsive. I'll try to show you that. It's a 42 tooth chain ring with aluminum bash and kind of chain guides that's on either side, aluminum. That's a nice touch. It works really well. They got a Velcro slap guard that's easily removable here, and it's got the Shimano Altus rear derailleur, and that's one step up from the very base model in Shimano. And it goes to 11 to 34 with, you can see that larger mountain chain ring there in the back. Then the meat of the bike, of course, is this, I don't know how to pronounce it. Maybe you can see it there. See if we can see. It's a Shengyi. Shengyi, badged by Rad Power Bike, 4 Rad Power Bikes, 750 watt direct drive, no gears, rear hub motor with 40 Newton meters of torque. And this comes with a 2 amp charger, which is a very basic charger. And that's 1.1 pounds. And the combination of the double leg kickstand and this, I like to call them deflopulators, that's what some of the companies call them, really makes it nice for stability. I forgot to talk about the rims when I was talking about the tires. They're double-walled rims. There's no reinforced eyelets with 12-gauge spokes front and rear. You have just a standard skewer, quick release on the front, and it's a bolted on in the rear. Nice comfort seat with a 27.2 millimeter seat post, very standard. When I was riding it, I used my Thudbuster seat post. You can of course see the cargo, the wide footboards, and the rear deck that has attachment points for a YEP seat. I think you have to pull this off to do the YEP attachment. I'm not 100% sure on that. We got a little bit of a handle on the back, and if you're not familiar, I'll do the kickstand really quick so you can see how that works. It's a lot like a motorcycle kickstand where you have to put your foot behind the kickstand to keep it in place, and then you kind of lift. That's where the handle really comes into play. Lift it back onto the kickstand. Some of the pertinent, I just want to point out a couple things on the geometry. So the standover height's 24 inches. That's actually different than what Rad Power Bikes has on their website. Their measurement seems to correspond to when it's up on the kickstand. When it's down off the kickstand, it's 24 inches. But in reality, that's more of like a step over height, and kind of in here where you'd be standing is more of a standover height, and that's almost right at this line. It's about 33 inches. So I feel like the geometry of this bike it really needs some more work. Like it's not, yeah, it's warm out here. I'm sweating a little bit. It's not quite there in my mind. Like it's a little bit hard to get in because it's narrow, and you have to get your leg really up high. The nice thing is you can leave it on the kickstand, get on it, and then push it off the kickstand, especially if you had cargo on here or kids or what have you. So that's just kind of a complaint of mine. The weight, Rad Power Bike says this is 73 pounds. I measured it at 71.8 pounds. I think that kind of gives you a feel for the specs, hopefully. Rad Power Bikes is doing a lot better job with all their specs on the website. Just like I said, I noticed some of them are a little bit off. This rides like a smaller bike than it is to me. It doesn't really feel like a giant cargo bike, even with a passenger on there. I got a range of, I'm going to just talk about the range right now. Why not? I went 26 miles and still had 2 to 3 bars left. My experience on the Rad City means I probably had 7 miles left. So I would comfortably say the range is 30 miles. And that would make sure you're maintaining probably 20%. I weigh 175 pounds. 30 miles would give you a coverage of most road conditions and wind, I think, 25 to 30. And then that way you're doing your best to maintain the battery, keeping it kind of in between that 20% and 80% range that really extends the life of these lithium-ion batteries. Also to mention, this has Samsung cells. I think it's like 25E. Could be wrong on that, but it's got a good quality cell. One thing I want to mention on my range test is I also do battery temperature and motor temperature. The battery temperature on this one was 101 degrees, and I think some of that's because it's so large, and and the black color I think was absorbing some of the sunlight. The other thing to note with this, there's not really a handle, so it's a little awkward to carry when it's off the bike. The motor temperature was only 89 degrees, so I feel that that's a pretty, I mean, that's not really heating up all that much. Oh, and then of course the little color doodads are my own little addition. So talk a little bit about my acceleration and braking tests. So I do multiple tests to 100 feet, and I also do braking from 20 miles per hour, just trying to get a feel for comparison to other bikes. And I'll put other bikes on here, but so one of my complaints about the throttle, and it kind of ties into the motor, is the 40 newton meters of torque I don't think is quite enough for this bike. Off the line it's really slow, and so from 100 to 100 feet with my weight 175 pounds, it took me 7.9 seconds to get there. At my lady friend's weight of 115, it took her 6.9. But then when I put me and myself on the bike, me and my son on the bike, so 290 pounds total, that took 9.1 seconds.
3, 2, 1, go! I said go!
And it was actually hard to keep balanced taking off. It was taking off so slow. And I did those throttle only, no pedaling, because that's a little more controllable.
Are you guys having a good time?
The braking from 20 miles an hour with my weight was around 25 feet. So I feel that is quite sufficient. Even though maybe a hydraulic brake would let you apply more force with less effort. And I'm going to do a little hill climb here as part of my riding, just to show you. I think the climbing, the torque is just, I understand why Rad Power bikes did this. Like by standardizing their motor and battery, they're able to really cut down their costs. But I really think this particular bike would have been better served by a geared hub motor, something with higher torque output. All right, we're here on the bike, and we're going to go through the different power modes and hopefully give you some speed data and help you out. I'm pretty positive that the speed, and of course you can switch between kilometers per hour and miles per hour. Judging by the distance compared to my GPS is slightly optimistic, so I wouldn't be surprised if that's not the case here. I'm going to go along the trail here really quick. You can get a little bit idea. It's fairly stiff. I forgot to mention the frame is all aluminum, but the fork is steel. So it transmits quite a bit of vibration. I think it benefit from a suspension seat post, even though it's got a nice cushy saddle. And also a suspension fork wouldn't have been the worst idea on this bike either, in my mind. So I'm going to take off in throttle only. We're going to go through some power modes and give you a feel for it, I hope. So we're just in assist level 1, you can see. Just going, this is a little basic trail. Here's a pretty good bump. Maybe you'll get some transmitting of how it, Of course, this isn't a trail bike. I'm just kind of showing this to, show you how it is. And we're going to go across this grass here. And so I'm just this basic power level, and I'm, right now it's just throttle only. Once you get it going, you don't really notice the lack of torque as much. But I'm going to do this right now. So this is going to be a full throttle takeoff from the stop. And so you can see, hopefully between the chest GPS here, this chest view, how it goes. You can see that's fairly slow takeoff. But it does build, once it gets a little momentum going, it does pretty well. So I'm going to switch hands here. Oh, and then I'm just going to do a quick stability demonstration. You can see between that stabilizer and the fatter 2.3 inch tires, it's pretty stable. So I'm going to go here to speed mode 2. I don't know where the limit is, but that's a very gentle amount of speed. And it's not really... I'm going to let this car do its thing up here. This is quite easy to handle. Now I'm going to jump up to speed mode 3. Oh, I went to 4. So this is the standard mode, and what I've noticed is this gets you about, at least in flat terrain, to the max speed. What I've noticed is that I get to the max speed quite easily in speed mode 3, but what I notice is when there's hills involved, it doesn't have the pulling force up the hills at those speed modes. Looks like I had a turkey crossing here. Alright, turkeys. Gobble gobble. Alright, so what I tend to do is I tend to use the throttle as my, like if I'm going around a corner where I've had to slow down, I use the throttle to speed back up. So I'm going to speed mode 4. And you can see I'm not really increasing in top speed, but I'm in 5th gear right now. I'm going to get down to 6th. I'm going to go this way. You'll see my little takeoff here. So this is in 4th level, and I'm pedaling pretty hard, but I'm also in 6th gear. Just get an idea rate of acceleration here. And like I said, it's going to go a little above 20. You can see what the GPS says, what this actual speed is. I'd imagine is slightly slower than that. But with the extra weight of the bike and everything, like I'm in I just went to 7th gear. It's hard for me to push much faster than this. That's not that comfortable. So I'm going to go up into this highest assist level, and you can see there, I'm in the highest assist level. And you can really see how it's working. Here, I'll take off pedaling pretty hard. I'm in 6th gear. You can see it gets with the program. And the one thing I didn't talk about before, one of the big differences, because this is a direct drive hub motor, is you can get regenerative braking. So what I tend to do is I set my brakes a little loose so that I can tap them and like this and get some electronic braking. So I'm just tapping. So the disc brake isn't actually making contact. That's all the electronic braking slowing me down. And I actually really like that. I think it has the potential for reducing brake wear quite a lot. The one thing I've noticed is if you're coming down a hill, it does work as a limiter on how fast you can coast. It restricts your coasting down a hill. All right, I'm gonna crank it up. It's basically as fast as I can ride. Oh wait, actually right now I'm gonna do, this is gonna be the maximum, this is throttle only maximum speed right now. So it's saying a little over 20, but it's holding pretty steady right there. But I'm sure you can hear the wind noise, and it's, you know, it's moving. So right up here, I'm going to take this hill, and I'm going to show it to you, and I'm going to do this hill throttle only. I'm going to also do the post the results of this hill climb. I'm going to do at the end of this video. But here you can see the hill. You see my speed. I'm doing it throttle only, and we'll see how we do. This is where I think the higher torque motor would benefit, especially if I had a load on this bike. It's just me and a very light backpack, but you can see it's struggling. Of course, I would pedal. Here, I'm going to pedal a little bit, and that helps it out a lot. But throttle only, it just doesn't have. It's not giving you the full torque to really climb. And that's a pretty significant grade. That's probably 10% grade. So just to let you know. See the battery drop there. If I didn't mention before, it's a 5-bar battery indicator. Even though I think this bike's lacking a little bit in torque, the smoothness of the throttle, even though I wish I had a little more oomph for takeoff, especially if you had this loaded down with kids or cargo, it's super smooth. And it's super smooth, super quiet. It's a really easy bike to ride. I think most people will find it pretty agreeable. Even though hill climbing isn't quite its strong suit, and maybe heavy cargo capacity either. So hopefully that gives you a feel for the motor, the way it's working through the different speed modes. Yeah, thanks.
Wrap it up. About time.
All right, I'm sitting on the back of the bike here. So that's gonna kind of wrap up my review for the Rad Wagon. Definitely Rad power bikes has really improved their quality. The welds look good, the paint, everything looks sharp. I think they still need to do some work on their geometry and some of the power options. It'd be nice to have something more tailored towards a cargo bike on this cargo bike. So that's just something to be aware of, that you're not getting the moon, and with some of the advertising from Rad power bikes you might think you are. So I just want to clarify that. But, you know, with a pad here, you know, I mean, you might even get, oh, jeez. Well, that's something to know. Don't lean over. I'm sitting at the back of this, and, you know, there's still, you could probably put 2 kids on here with the size of the deck. Hopefully this gives you a general feel. And one other thing I wanted to note, last thing I'm noting, I say that a lot. One other thing I'm going to note. But because of this, you know, I was saying that it has kind of this standover. This is where my foot is hitting this tube. And it'd almost be nice if there was almost like a bash guard right here. Or like a plastic, I don't know, it's going to get, the paint's probably going to get nicked up here and here. But I really hope this review helps you out on deciding on this bike. I tend to be a little critical because bikes, they're expensive, and it's just the way I'm built, but I hope it helps you out generally. And, you know, if you have any questions, feel free to comment down below. This bike is actually going to be going to my friend up in Lake Tahoe. So there's something I can't answer. I can ask her what her experience is, and I'll probably in a little while follow up with her and go up to Lake Tahoe and check in on the bike, see how it's working out for her. But thanks a lot for watching. We'll see you next time, I hope.
Catch the wave, feel the